Dots. Dots, come here. Oh, come here. What are you doing? It's a big day today. A lot of stuff going on. I'll show you what I'm going to change in the barn. But other than that, I've got to make forks, unload flooring off the truck, change transmission fluid in the truck and the car, and there's something else. I can't remember what it is now. Anyways, it'll come up later. But that's what we got to do. If you're wondering why it's all got to happen today, it doesn't all have to happen today. It has to happen today and tomorrow. And the reason being is because it is beautiful out. Well, it's gonna be beautiful. Right now it's like 34 or 35. It's above freezing finally. And it's gonna be 60 degrees for the high today. So I wanna take advantage of that weather. So first thing I'm gonna do is move this truck over and then we'll get started. Let's go. We've been started in actually about a week. So a couple of things going on. We're going to change up a little bit of the barn. But the other thing that's being changed is we have another baby. PJ just had her baby. You're doing good, PJ. So we're going to leave them alone for now. The baby was probably born about 10-15 minutes ago. So we need to give them their privacy so they can get cleaned up. It's important for mom to get that baby cleaned up. That helps dry them off. And then she needs to get her up there and eating. So we'll leave them alone for now. Oh, and things that we're going to change in the barn. So basically we're going to take the pins off and we're going to close off the back side before the two big doors you see open on the side right there. And then we'll put another gate right here and they'll have all of that space open. It just doesn't seem like they have a lot of room in their pins, and it makes it to where I feel like they're getting kind of, I mean, I'm not an animal rights activist by any means, but I mean, at the end of the day, these sheep, they're our employees, and I want to treat them well because I want them to do well for our farm. And I don't think they have enough space. Like as you can see, PJ couldn't get away. Usually these guys want to go kind of away from the flock when they give birth. They want to get their baby all cleaned up, and then about a day or two later, they'll kind of reintegrate back into the flock. But that's not really feasible for them right now because with the pens, they have more than enough space. They have all the spacing that they're supposed to have as far as USDA standards goes, which says that they're supposed to have 20 foot for mom and babies. They're actually somewhere around 33 feet. But it just doesn't seem like a lot of space. So we're gonna make it to where they have even more space, to where they can actually get away from each other if they want to. For right now, what I need to do is get all these metal pieces. We gotta fix our forks because I really need to be able to use those. All right, so those of you that don't know, this was the only barn we had when we bought our house. We bought our house with 10 acres. Then we bought additional land around us as the years went on. We're up to 77 acres now, and we started with 40 sheep, which 40 sheep can fit in here even with the equipment. Not a terrible setup, other than when you have lambs and they get stuck under the brush hog or under the tractor or something like that. Anyways, we used to have one pin about a quarter of this size, maybe a little bit bigger, that we'd put mom and baby in when they'd first give birth so that they'd have a chance to kind of bond and get a chance to really get together well. So I'm gonna make sure that she eats. You're doing good, PJ. That's not good. I'll have to watch her. Anyways, we're gonna clear all this out, open all this up. But before we had this barn, the way that we would feed their grain every time would be that we would simply have this big barn door back here would be open and they'd be able to go in and out in the winter. And then we had these troughs that we made just some posts that we put in the ground and then ran 2x4s across the top to give them something as a trough that they wouldn't destroy. Well, they're gonna go back to that today, just for the moment, because we need them to get out so we can open this up the way we want and take all these pins out. It's close.
Hmm? I'm talking about they can go out and come back around. Are you gonna close the door?
No, but I want them to go out that way and back in that way. We're gonna go through here, take all these pins out, well, these bolts, take all these bolts out, and we'll get ready to let everybody loose. And then we'll move 2 of these, so this 20-foot panel right here, and this 20-foot panel right here. We'll move them both to right here, and they'll go across this bottom. And then we'll put a trough on that, and then we'll have a trough that goes a little ways up on the wall on both sides, because 40 feet is not enough spacing. It would barely be enough if they could get to both sides, because it's really 80 feet of spacing. And in case you're wondering, that's Dots. That's the bottle lamb from a couple days ago. She's doing very well, making new friends. All right, let's get to work. All right, for time being, this is how it's gonna stay. Basically, it's open from the very back right there all the way up to here, and then on that side, basically we'll come in one of the side doors to give a bale of hay or anything like that. We'll take a bale of hay off the stack, set it over, and drop it down after we wrap a cattle panel around it. The ones that you see that don't have the cattle panel around them, which is like that one and the 2 beyond it, or sorry, that one, and then skip one, and then the 2 beyond it, those aren't wrapped because they got destroyed. There was just nothing, there's just a big pile of hay, as you can see, that's around them right there. So we want to make it to where they're gonna clean it up as much as possible, and then I will make the cattle panels around these smaller to where they can actually reach in to eat the bale that's inside of them. But it's yeah, unfortunately we didn't wrap those 3 bales quick enough before they got to where they were destroyed, and it created a bunch of waste, as you can see them standing on it. So it is what it is. It'll get spread on the hayfield and the manure spreader, so ain't a big deal. It just happens. I gotta get over here though. I gotta get building these spikes, or the bale forks, because right now we don't have a functioning set, and that's just not gonna work. If you didn't see it on a previous video, these forks have essentially gotten to a point where the metal has ripped and it's just not repairable. I tried to patch it shortly after I tipped it, after I tipped those pallets. As you can see here, it just ripped the metal, and it was so thin that I couldn't even try to patch it. And at this point, it's pulling this spear, the mount for it, it's pulling it away from the metal too. The metal is just getting ripped. It's not even the welds that are breaking, it's just the metal itself probably got weak whenever I welded it because it got hot. This metal's not very thick, it's only 1/8 inch. And at the end of the day, this is what I should have done. I should have used the 1/4 inch thick steel. I didn't, because I wanted to make this lighter so that the tractor would lose less. I wouldn't take away as much of the capacity of its lifting ability. In retrospect, it worked for a while. We used it for something we shouldn't have, and it ended up destroying this side of it. That side's still good, but one spike just doesn't do us any good. So we're gonna go ahead and take our spikes back from it. We'll cut the collars out that they mount on. We'll use the we'll use the plasma cutter to cut those off, and we'll put them on the new ones. Sometimes it bites you in the butt when you make something cheaper. Other times it works out really well. This is just one of those times it bit me in the butt. By the way, it's a cheap Amazon cutter. If you're curious about it, the Cut 50, I have another YouTube channel, or another video on the YouTube channel where we kind of did a review on it. For 250 bucks, I can't complain. It works very well. Like I said, not the prettiest, not the nicest, but it definitely works. All right, got our collars in there. Now all I gotta do is just weld them. I know there's a little bit of a odd looking hole, but basically tried to trace it and it didn't work out well, and I had to make it a little bigger. So it worked out really well last time. I'm not sure what happened this time. I guess I was just shaky. I don't know. All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry, didn't record a lot the last 2 days because the weather was so nice. A lot of stuff I wanted to get done, and it wasn't anything that was really all that interesting. Just a quick recap. So we fixed the forks. The Bale forks are done on the little tractor. Plumbing issue fixed at mother-in-law's house. Transmission fluid changed in the car and the truck. Firewood's cut. So none of it was anything special. But what it did leave was the stuff that we didn't quite finish, because I don't mind working in here when it's cold. Mainly because the wind is blocked. That's what, as you've seen in our property, we don't have anything that blocks wind from the north or the south. So even if it's, say, 50 degrees out, but it's real windy, it's not very warm. Anyway, these panels are just sitting here for a minute because we're experimenting. We want to see how well we like this. They've been like this now for 2 days, and they've done a very good job of cleaning up the bales that we couldn't wrap, mainly because we were late to the party on that. We should have wrapped them at the beginning, and we didn't. And they ended up making one of the bales, they busted it open. There's just a rowdy group apparently. And then the other bales, there's two back here, they did the same thing. But today, what we need to do is we need to set up a trough. And we're gonna do the trough out of 2x6s. It'll be across those back panels. And then the other thing is that we're gonna set 2 more coming up on the sides, because 40 feet's not enough for everybody. If it was one that they could get from both sides, then it would be, but unfortunately it's not, so. There's Dots. Dots. Dots, come here. Oh, come here. What are you doing? You shouldn't be in there. How'd you get in there? How'd you get in there? Dots is the bottle baby. I'm not sure how she ended up in there. What? Let me get you. We like the pens. The pens actually worked very well, as you've seen in the previous few videos. The problem that we had with them was it took us a long time to feed. It took us a long time to water, because everybody has to have their own water. Now they have one communal water trough, just like they do in the pastures, and it works so much easier because, like on, for instance, if it's not going to be frigidly cold like it was a couple days ago, you know, as long as the highs, or the lows, sorry, the lows don't go below like 20, 25 degrees, then we don't have to do anything. The water won't freeze at all in here. They have put off enough body heat that it keeps the barn warm enough that it keeps the hose from freezing. But the feeding didn't really take terribly long, but it was difficult because you're feeding each individual one, you're measuring everything out. Whereas if we have all of our troughs where they're communal again, then everybody, you know, we can fill up however many buckets we need to give them the 1 pound per animal, and we just dump it in the troughs and they go at it and have, well, get their grain as quick as they can. Because the same thing was happening in the pens. Even though you put in the prescribed amount for that group, there's still one that's a hungry hippo that's going to eat faster than everybody else and get, say, 1.25 pounds instead of just 1 pound, and take away from the others. But overall, we really like it. The other beauty is that when it comes to cleaning, we're actually going to do it a little differently. So we're still going to sift here and there, but for the most part, what we can do is now we take the tractor, we bring it in here. I use the box blade, pull it all down here, and then use the bucket to scoop against, say, this wall right here, lift it up, dump it over into the manure spreader. So a lot of benefits to it. I mean, there's of course downsides to it. The downside is that we only have 2 pens to separate moms in 2 if we need to, but that's kind of where we're at. I need to get this trough built. All right, we got all the old pens out of there. We'll actually put them out here because if for whatever reason we need to, we can always add a pen. The it's kind of the nice side of the system. Those right there all will work for the sides going out, and then we don't have to put up a 20-foot pen. We can put a 15 by 15 up, or even a 15 by 10 if we use those two short pieces. So it gives us some options and some flexibility if if the need arises. And there's actually quite a bit more space. And then last but not least, instead of doing 2x6s for troughs, I think we're actually going to do these PVC pieces just as a test run to see how well we like it where it's at. And then when we like it, we will put up a more permanent solution. These are good for testing. And since we already had them, again, we weren't out anything. Okay, it's materials that are already here, and I don't have a use for 4-inch PVC. There's nothing I'm going to use it for. So, well, Chugger, what do you have to say for yourself? You can let them babies out? No? And we had another set of twins born right there. Actually, maybe you can see where my finger's at. Right there. They're doing very well. Mama's been feeding them and cleaning them up and keeping them good and warm. See? And this is why you're named Nibbles. Forgot to mention one thing about the other change. So you see this gate goes across right here. Well, that's because we want to be able to bring this small tractor in here, shut this gate behind it, and then open the gate that I just showed you right here to take the tractor in. We'll use the tractor to clean. So basically what will happen is we'll push, let's say like this half, right? We'll push all of it down, and then we'll turn around, throw new bedding out, and then with the tractor we'll put the bucket on it, and we'll scoop it over and put it into the politician or the manure spreader, and then take that and spread it. Basically we won't store any manure in here. Whenever the time comes to clean, we'll clean it, take it, spread it right away on the pasture or on the hayfield, and then bring it back. Helps to keep it cleaner in here. Plus, we don't have a lot of space right now with all the hay in here. I'm actually going to do a video the next time we have mineral. Next time we need to mix it. We mix about 150 pounds at a time. But this mineral right here, so if you go to the store and you buy like Country Tough or whatever the general farm store brand is, they'll have sheep mineral or goat mineral, stuff like that. And the problem is that stuff is filled with, it does have nutrients in it, but it's also filled with fillers that you don't want them to have. And those fillers are a problem because they actually encourage them to eat this, and they encourage them to eat more than they really need. Now their body, just like ours, can only absorb so much at a time. When they absorb too much, they just excrete it out. They're going to poop it out, and I'm basically wasting my money. It's a lot cheaper and more effective for me to mix this mineral for two reasons. One, it doesn't have any additives other than just the nutrients and the minerals that they really do need. I want them to have that stuff. But what I don't want them to have is like molasses or some sweet feed mixed into it, because it encourages them to eat it. I want them to be encouraged to eat it, but only as they need it. Our water's about full. We're gonna leave our other water trough in here just in case, because I want to see. We're gonna test this out today because it's not gonna be very warm today, and it's not supposed to be very warm tonight. So if it doesn't freeze, that tells me that we're gonna be okay. That they're gonna drink enough water and move enough water that will be able to stay thawed. Kind of the same concept as leaving your kitchen sink, leaving it just trickle a little bit of water. The exact same concept. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned to see how we clean the barn, what we do for feed troughs, and if our water idea works out where it doesn't freeze. It got down to, I think it was like 10 or 12 degrees, and the water, the buckets like that did end up freezing, but they didn't have that many drinking out of it and keeping water flowing into it. So that should raise the temperature of the water too. So I really do think this is going to work to make it to where it won't freeze at all. But you'll have to come back and see if it works. And if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe. That way you can see when we post new content. Other than that, have a blessed week, and we'll see you next time.